Welcome everyone again. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Aparo's Nonprofit Bites and Insights. These are webinar series that are tailored just for nonprofit professionals. We have topics and speakers from all different industries, all different topics to come generously share their knowledge and expertise with you all. And today I'm excited to talk about Power Automate. If you're anything like me, this might be your first time exploring Power Automate, or maybe you've dabbled in it here and there. But I know based on our registration, many of us are new to this. So I am excited to learn more from our presenter, from Britt. But before I turn it over to her, really quickly, some housekeeping items. I am recording this session. It will be shared with you afterwards. All of you who are attending live will receive a follow-up email from me. It will include the link to the recording, the slide deck, and any other resources we might talk about today. Q&A box and chat box are available for you to use. Go ahead and use those to drop in your questions at any time, and we will be sure to get to those. Excuse me. So for those of you who are new to Aparo, really quickly, Aparo is a nonprofit. We are based in Charlotte, North Carolina. And in a nutshell, what we do is we help other nonprofits with anything technology. We do offer a wide range of services to meet the needs of the nonprofits wherever they're at, including one-on-one consulting. This could be getting coaching on a specific tool. It could just be talking about broadly around technology and what the needs and challenges are. It could be getting connected with a vendor like a managed service provider or an IT or phone settings or laptops, any of those things. We are here to give guidance on resources. We also offer customized team trainings as well as solution-focused projects. So if any of those sound interesting, I would say visit our website at apar.org to learn more. And if you do want to have further conversations around our services, you can put in your interest in the interest form and someone will get contact with you right away. I do want to take this opportunity to talk about two grants that are now open from Aparo. These are called our Mission Possible Awards. So winners of this grant will receive $10,000 in grant money and up to $50,000 of consulting services to make your technology dream a reality. This is open only for nonprofits that are in the Charlotte area, as well as the North Carolina Triangle area, so the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area. If you'd like to learn more, there is an information session that's happening in February, on February 28th. And then, of course, I will drop the website in the chat in a moment, where you can take a look at more of the details as well as the eligibility requirements. And this is it for me. So if you haven't already subscribed to our email list, this is the best way to stay updated on our programmings, our grants, all that fun stuff. So you can use this QR code, but I will also drop it in the chat as well. That is it. I will go ahead and stop sharing and turn it over to Britt.
Thank you, Yansing. And let me bring up my screen. Oh, this one. Okay. All right. I'm a little more familiar with Microsoft Teams, as you might imagine. Okay. Are we good? You're seeing a slide.
Looks
Okay.
good.
The presentation doesn't officially begin until you have been shared a slide. So good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thanks so much for joining, and Yenting, thanks for having me back again, and thanks to Aparo for hosting this series. I'm excited to be talking to you today about Power Automate. Any day that you want to talk about Power Automate, I will talk to you about Power Automate. And I got to say, that grant sounds fantastic. What a nice offering. I hope you get lots of responses for that. What a great service is being provided here. All right, lots to cover. I will try to keep it in the time. I could go on all day about this. So are you seeing my video on top of the video or no?
Video, just the the
Just the
slides that's
slide.
high
Okay.
there.
I didn't know because I'm sharing my whole screen. I didn't know if you could see that too. So just a quick introduction. I've been doing Microsoft for, it's actually probably close to 20 years, but I can't bear to put that on the slide. So I'll keep it at 15. Would love to catch up with anyone after this call to learn more about how you might be looking to use Power Automate or other Power Platform or really anything Microsoft. I am a Microsoft product expert, and this is what I do pretty much every day is help train people on all these cool tips and tricks on how to become more productive and get investment out of their licensing. I am located in Chicago, and to clarify, that is the actual city of Chicago, not like Iowa, Chicago, that I hear people talk about sometimes, or more like the St. Louis area of Chicago. And I just always like to start off with a failure. Yenting is familiar with this one, but last week, so I am in a co-working space, and I chose to sit at the wobbly table. And I didn't realize it was wobbly until I went and got myself a cup of tea. And I am not a tea drinker, for the record. It was just one of those days, and I just wanted something a little bit different. So I went and got tea for like the first time in a long time. And I sat at the wobbly table, and you probably know where this is going. And I didn't even realize it happened. I had spilled some of that very hot tea on my laptop, which was like a $1,500 laptop. And it worked fine all day. I had cleaned it up. And then the next day I went to turn it on, and it did not turn on. So I am now on a like $200 borrowed laptop, and I've lost a number of things. And it's a first world emergency. I'm just trying to get back to everything. So keep your drinks covered and away from your electronic devices, please. So there's a lot of words on the slide talking about what is Power Automate, but I'm going to start with a story. And I mentioned that I'm an M365 product specialist, and I'm working with an organization right now that is not very technical. They have warehouses, and a lot of the people work in those warehouses. They drive forklifts, they drive trucks, they're operating machinery, they're lifting boxes. Using Microsoft tools is just not a big part of their workday, if it ever is. And sometimes, having been in this industry, as may happen with many of you, you just become a bit numb to the fact that people don't sometimes speak your same language or think about things the way that you think about them. And I certainly encountered that when I was working with this organization, and I really had to take a step back because somebody had come up to me who was in sales talking about this AI application that they had found on the web, and how it was really great at creating these images that he could add into his PowerPoint presentations. And wasn't this great? And if I could talk to the CIO about maybe whitelisting this app so that he could use it. And I was trying to understand what some of the limitations were, and with what he was already given. And he said, well, I can't put pictures into PowerPoint. And I said, can you tell me more about that? And we talked, and he just hadn't used PowerPoint in so long that he didn't notice that there were new image libraries associated. I think in his mind, he was still thinking about clip art or having to find something on the web, grab the URL, save it to his computer, upload it. And so we sat for 1 hour and talked about PowerPoint images and how you can access a stock image library and how you can use some of these new illustrations. And he was like, wow, I didn't know any of this was here. And so that made me think about approaching things in a little bit of a different way. And typically when you come to a presentation like this, you're going to get the PowerPoint sandwich. You're going to get some PowerPoint, you're going to get a demo, and then you're going to come back with some PowerPoint. And looking at this slide, it's not very inspiring. And it's not really, I mean, you might be reading it while I'm talking here, but I am going to switch this up a little bit, and I'm just going to dive right into the demo and show you some Power Automate and show you how to get started with this. And I think that will help you understand what it is and what it does. And then we can come back and look at some slides if that's at all interesting, or we can just continue looking at this thing. Right. The one slide I do want to show, because it's going to come up almost immediately, I think, once I start talking about this presentation. And that is this one. So I don't know what everyone's license structure is, but chances are you are probably on either an E3 or an F3 license, or at least most of the people in your organization are. If you have this license, then you have Power Automate. You can see that it is present here, Power Apps and Power Automate in each one of these license categories. This says Power Virtual Agents. This is a little bit outdated. That's now called Copilot Agents, but it's the same idea of like these chatbots. And those three products are making up the Power Platform by and large. So everything that I am going to show you is included in your Microsoft license if you have one of these. And that's going to be it for the slides for now. And now I'll go right into showing you some Power Automate.
Hey, Britt. So with these licenses, I don't even know what license that my nonprofit has. So is there a way to check, or would you just recommend going into our tenant and just seeing if we have Power Automate under that
Yeah,
waffle?
I would go and I'll show you how to get started with it and see if you have Power Automate. If here's a good way to know if you have Microsoft Office applications on your desktop, whether you have a Mac or a Windows, then you probably have one of these because the lower end licenses tend to have Office in the so either somebody paid for a license for you for that application separate, or you only have it in the browser. So if you're able to log in to like office.com and then it says like download apps and you have those on your computer, you most likely have one of these. It's pretty rare that an office worker doesn't have at least an F3 or an E3, because that's going to unlock everything that you would have with the
And I
typical
will
browser.
add, many of you, I hope many of you, being nonprofits, that you have the nonprofit like version where they give you, I think, 10 or 15 licenses. If you have that business premium, you do have Power Automate.
Yes, I think the nonprofits are E3s,
I
because
think so too, yeah.
really the difference with E3 and E5 is that you get more security products. I mean, there are some others, but that's a big one. You get these things called like Defender and some identity access management included. So you see that a lot in big organizations. But like, for example, the one that I just mentioned that I'm working with now, only a handful of people have E5 licenses. Almost everybody has an F3 or an E3, and that's going to be pretty common. So I would expect that anybody with a Microsoft license, unless you're using Google or something else, would have access to all the things that I'm talking about today. There are some premium features, but I'm not going to talk about those. And because we're all new here, I think this is a good place to start. Yeah, thanks for the clarification. Okay. So I have a form here, expense reimbursement form. It's very simple. Here's screen's restarting here. And somebody can come to this form and fill out an expense. This is just a Microsoft form I created. There's not even any logic in it. Just what is the item, data transaction, pretty standard expense stuff. And what I would like to do is have this expense form be sent for an approval to the person who needs to approve it, and then log this expense in a SharePoint list so that we can look at our expenses across the organization. Because having it in this form doesn't help me to be able to approve it and doesn't really help me to be able to monitor it ongoing. Because this would be exported typically to an Excel file. So to get started with this, I'm going to leave this form open over here. I'm going to log into my account, Office 365. Office 365 Copilot. We're going to be doing some Copilot, actually. That's going to be fun. So this is a little bit of Power Automate and a little bit of Copilot. If you don't know what Copilot is, again, I'm not going to show you some slides. I'm just going to show you so you see. You can come here to the waffle icon, and here's Power Automate. So if you see Power Automate, then you have Power Automate. And if you don't see this, you can start typing it in up here, and it should show up. So Power Automate is the workflow engine behind Microsoft 365, and it allows you to automate all aspects of your experience with Microsoft, whether it's Teams, your email, SharePoint, Excel, PowerPoint, all of that can be automated. And there are over 500, probably even close to 1,000 different connectors that you can use to also integrate with other tools. So if you're using Salesforce or you're using like MailChimp, you can automate all of that too with this. But we're going to be focusing just on Microsoft, but it's good to know about these different connectors too. So the first thing that I'm seeing when I come to Power Automate is to run Copilot. Copilot is the generative AI engine of Microsoft. If you have a Windows computer, you're starting to see it everywhere. It's in your browser, it's on your tab bar. I mean, it's just all in your face. All your apps are being rebranded as Copilot. It's a bit much, I think, but I see what they're really trying to make it sticky. And so Power Automate is really no different. They've kind of taken out all the other parts that used to show up here with Copilot, and now they're just kind of right here on the home screen showing you to start your automation with Copilot. And I think we're going to take Microsoft up on this offer. We're going to, I am not in the right place here. Just noticed, give me a second. And this is not going to work. Somehow it logged me into a different account than the one I was using. Let's try now. So with Copilot, we're able to say in plain English what it is that we want to do. And even if it's not going to be perfect, and it's probably not, it's a good place to get started, and it's an easy way to learn. So we're getting some prompt ideas here. I'm going to enter in that I want this form when I receive a new response to create an approval and then create an item in a SharePoint list. So we'll go ahead and type that. And I will mention that I've done this demo for myself in practice a couple times, and I do get different results. So let's see what comes out this time. They're all not bad results. They're just different. So I can't anticipate what's going to come out the other end here, but hopefully it's pretty close. So when you see my history, the new form is entered. For approval, then update a SharePoint list. All right. So notice I don't have to say which form, I don't have to say which SharePoint site. I don't really have to be overly specific here. I'm just putting some general structure to the thing that I want to do. Let's see what Copilot gives us back. So before it goes and just creates the flow, it's going to give me a suggestion from here. It's like, did I get this right or not? So when a new response is submitted in forms, that looks good. Get the details of the form, wait for an approval. The condition is going to either create an item or update an item. That's not exactly right, but I'm not going to try a different suggestion. That's close enough. We can just work with this and then make some adjustments. So I think that's pretty good of what I asked for. It's telling me that I need to be able to connect to approvals in SharePoint, so that looks fine. And so approvals, well, we'll talk about that. So now it's giving me that overview of what it said, and it's everything here is errored out, which makes sense because I didn't connect this to a form. I didn't connect this to a SharePoint list, so it's going to tell me I need to do those things first. So now I'm just looking here at the canvas, and let's just take a little tour of this. So Copilot is here anchored on the right. So if I need to ask for help or I want to make some changes, I can try using Copilot to do that rather than clicking around. You are given a flowchart type view here. It's a little hard to see on my screen. I don't know about yours, but there are some tiny dots here in this canvas in which the actions are sticking to. You can use this plus button to be able to add new steps. You can zoom in and out on your flow, which is helpful, when you have some lengthy flows, particularly if they are spaghetti-like and just kind of keep going down rather than having lots of branches. You get some views as to what this action is doing so that each one has a little icon. So let me zoom back in here. You can see these ones have a form. This tells me that this is an action connected to forms. And then I have some items up here on the top to be able to diagnose issues, save, test, close, and open that Copilot window. On this left, you're going to get a panel when you click on an item that's going to show you how you can configure that item. This is going to be open a lot of the time for you as you're working through your flow. For each one of these items in the flow, you're mostly going to spend your time on the parameters tab where you're looking at the configuration for that item. You have some more advanced functionality under settings and code view and about. You won't tend to use these too often. It's primarily on the parameters. And this one here has a red dot to show me that action is required. I do need to pick the form that I want to set this to. So we'll go and do that now here. I'm able to see what the error message is on each one of these. And this is going to show me in this drop down all of the forms that I have access to with the names of that form. So I don't have to go, if you have any experience with some of this Microsoft stuff from the past or SharePoint Designer, when you may have needed to go and look for a GUID, you don't have to deal with any of that. If you have access to the form, it should be showing up here as the form name. But as you can see, sometimes you might have a lot of forms that have similar names and you can't tell which one is which. So it's helpful to have some unique names for everything that you're working with, not just in this example. But in this case, I want to look at this expense reimbursement form. And that's all I have to do with this one. Now we're good. If I want to rename this so it's clear, a new expense report is entered. Okay. Close that. Now we'll go to this next one. It already pre-populated that I want to get the response ID. I just need to say, again, the form that I want. It's expense report. Oh, that one's happy now. No more messages. Start and wait for an approval. So this doesn't know the type of approval I want, who I want to approve. So this one I'll need to configure here. There are lots of approval options that you can choose from. It's majority rules, first, jump ball. We can have a sequential approval. So first it's going to go to my manager, and the manager's manager, and then to your mother or whatever you need to send it to. So in this case, that's just going to be me, small company. My word goes. So that's going to be first to respond, which is also like the only person. Once I've selected that, now I'm getting the other options down here, and I can see I have some other fields that I need to complete. So if I collapse this now, I'm still getting that message, and we'll fill this in. We can add some dynamic text here. So we could just say expense report reapproval, but we can be a little more prescriptive about what we want it to say. And when I'm in a field, I got the little lightning bolt here and this function button. We'll be using those. So we'll say new expense approval for. Now we can go here to this function button, dynamic content, and this is going to pull up the response details, and you'll see all of the fields or the questions that I have in that form are available for me to pull in that response. In this case, we'll pick in the item and add, and that's good. New expense approval for item. We will just assign this one to me. Okay. If there's any details, if I wanted to link to something. So if you had a document, for example, that was approved, or you wanted to upload the receipt separately and you had to send something, then you can add a link, the dynamic link to that item. I don't need to do anything here because it's all going to be in the form that we're asking somebody to review. And I will close that, and it's happy. And we can change this so that we know. Now, best practice here is never to hard code a name into a flow. You probably want to put that someplace else and then point to that value. So if that person ever leaves or you have to swap it out for a reason, then you can do that more easily. But this company is just me and myself, so I can just put my name in there for now. So at this point, I want to save. Do save often when you are working with Power Automate, because it is browser-based. Should this page refresh, you're going to lose a lot of your changes. And when I do that, it's going to show me that I still have some errors that I need to address, and it's going to point to me where they are, and just open that panel, which is really convenient. That's an update from how this used to work, where you had to kind of hunt around for where exactly the issue was. So now it's asking me about that SharePoint list item. I mentioned before, this is collapsed. Let's open that up. So here I can see it's going to pull in whether or not the approval was approved or not. I don't care if it's approved or not. I want to log it either way. So I'm going to just take this item, this create item, and drag it up here, because whether it's approved or denied or anything else, I still want to see it in that SharePoint list. And then all of this is not something that I need. I'm just going to delete it. All right. Now we're in SharePoint. We get the SharePoint item here. And this is SharePoint, but I'm actually just going to use a list. So let's jump over there and see what that list looks like. I've created a list in Microsoft List, which has a lot of that same information from the form so that I can use it ongoing for reference. So I've got item, date, amount, category, so on. But I do have an approval status here, which is not part of my form. And I want that approval status to be saved in the form as I complete it. So to do this, I'm going to grab the URL of this site, which is up here. And we'll go back to the flow and paste that in. We're going to give it a moment here to kind of resolve itself. And now it's going to that site, and it's going to show me all of the lists that are here. And I have only one, the expense tracker, which is this list that we saw. Under advanced parameters, you can see it says showing 0 of 7. That 7 refers to the fields that I have in that list. I can say show all, and it's going to give me those same titles that we just looked at. So I can add something or not add something if I want to create this new item. So we'll rename this to blog SharePoint. And the title will be the item. Oh, I clicked that twice. Cancel that. Let me do that again. Okay, we're going to look for item. No. And the date is the date. Date of transaction. And, we can keep going with this and filling these in. But now I want to get the approval. So I could have that branch to say, whether it's approved or rejected, I can have this populate. I'm just going to grab the response summary here and put that in the approval value. All right, and we'll save. Okay, I think we're good to at least run this take this for a test drive. What do you think, Anthony? Should we do it? Yeah, okay. Let's go get our expense reports approved. So I've saved this now. I'm going to click test. And this is a nice feature so that you can see this run in real time. This is no automatic trigger for this one. I can only choose manual and then say test. And now you can see it's spinning. It's just sitting here waiting for a form to be submitted so that I can see what's happening. So it says to see it now, perform the starting action. We'll go back to this form and start filling this in. So what did we buy? Private jet. And we got this on Monday. This is for, I don't have no idea, $1 million. Put it on our personal card for the points, of course. And I'm going to submit this now. Okay, your response was submitted. Now let's go back to our flow. And, oh, there it goes. Oh, a lot of things just happened there really fast. So note that I am logged in here as the support account. So this was created under the support account. So here, this ran okay. Obviously, it started to run. This ran okay. Now it's pausing here. It's waiting for the approval. I can see some other details here about when it started. And it might be sitting here for days, right? But we're going to move on to Brit's experience of receiving this approval. So Workplace Hub has come in and logged a expense report for the private jet. And Brit has been busy at work, as always. And let's check out Brit's experience over here. I can't see my taskbar. All right, so in Brit's Teams, she has an alert. You saw maybe something pop up here in the lower right of my screen. 11:32 a.m. I have an approval. This would also come into my email. There it goes. And it's look pretty much the same, but here it tells me what's going on, comments. I don't really have a lot of details in here right now, but I could add that in so I can see what I'm being asked to approve. And then I have approve or reassign. Now let's take a look over in Brit's email, which is here. So this message comes to both Teams and Outlook without having to look at this. So here I see the title. Remember, we added that in, new expense approval for private jet. And from here, I can approve or reject and add in the comments from the email. Just one more thing on this I want to mention, not so much related to Power Automate, but I'm going to jump back to Teams here. I'm going to close this down. If you are a person who is on your approval request, you get fairly regularly, there is an app in Teams for approvals. And this allows you to see all of the approvals that you have either received or that you have requested. So if you are submitting a lot of these, then you also would benefit from this app. And it allows you to get a view as to where all of your requests are across all of your applications if you need to request something for approval or receive something. And you can pin this over here on the side. You can also add it to an individual team. So if you had a team for managing expenses, you could add that approval right into that particular team. Oh, it's flexible however you want to manage it here. So I added this and I could right click. Oh, I thought I could pin that. I guess I can't pin. But I can open that up at any time and see all my expenses. sorry, all of my approvals. In this case, I see the one for the expense. So I have it in the activity, I have it in the approvals app, I have it in my email. I'm going to have it in a lot of places. And we can do a lot more with this too, like sending reminders or adding a lot more detail about the expense. But in the interest of time, I am absolutely going to reject this expense. It is ridiculous. So, right, reject. Womp womp. Okay. Here I can see the final status is rejected. I am the one person out of one, the first one to respond. We'll go back to our workflow. And I'm just going to give this a moment here to come back. So it's continually monitoring to see when the response was done. So I actually got two prompts. It was a little hard to follow, but one of them was telling me that I had telling Britt that Britt had rejected this. And the other one was Britt saying that everybody had responded and that this was now rejected. So it was like one alert for the workplace account with the final result and one for Britt.
So, Britt, while we're waiting for that to come up, maybe we can take the opportunity to answer a couple questions.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So we have one question. It says, prior to our move to Microsoft 365, our organization was using Google Suite. I'm assuming we would need to move our Google Forms to Microsoft Forms to set up the automations.
You know, yes, that's the bottom line is yes. There are some actions. I don't know. This is I'm going to open a new flow here so you can see this. And I'm not just specifically answering that question about Google because this would apply to all kinds of things. So I think this is a good thing to pause and take a look at. This is mentioning when I talked about that there are so many connectors. So if you're thinking about, can I do this with Power On? And you're looking to do something beyond what you have access to within the tenant, within the Microsoft tenants, I would go to, should be over here, templates. I should have actually started with this too. This is awesome. There are probably over 1,000 different templates of how you can start. And so you can see right here on the start, I've got Google Drive. Let's see what else we have. So Microsoft ones, there's X. So let's look for Google. And again, these are just examples. These are templates. But here's one where I can fully automate Google. I can take an attachment from Google in an email and save it to my Google Drive with Microsoft Flow. That's pretty cool. So here's Gmail. I don't know that I'm going to, oh, what is this? That's Google Sheets. Let's see if we can do something with Google. Record form response in a Google Sheet. That's a Microsoft form. Yeah, I don't know that we can connect to a Google form, but you can connect to a Google Sheet, and a Google Sheet is connected to a Google form by default. So you could do it that way, but I would recommend that you move it to Microsoft. It's just going to be a better experience. If you've already made that pivot as an organization, just go all in. If the forms are really complex, there is a converter that's out there that Microsoft has. I haven't tried it. It's been easier just to kind of rebuild the few that I've encountered when I've done those migrations, but there is a tool, you can look it up as a Google Form converter. But again, going back to whether it's Google Forms or you're working with like Asana, it has some connectors, like just to show you, like if you're thinking about doing something, just come into this templates and look for it. And there's a good chance that there's already something that's going to be a starter for what it is that you're looking to do with that application. Is there another question?
Um, yes. Are you familiar, Britt, with Monday.com?
A bit, yeah, I've used
Okay,
it.
so the question was the automations that are in Monday.com. Basically, you can do anything that you can do in Monday.com, you can do here. That's the question.
Yes. Well, and then some, and
And then
then
some.
some. Yeah, because Monday.com, the automations are, pardon me if I'm not as familiar with this as I think I am, but I think that they are isolated to working with everything that's in Monday.com and maybe some documents. Where, as you can see, I can work across. Let's see, I have something from Monday.com. No, so there's no connector for Monday.com, but if they have an open API, you could probably work on something. Um, but I can work across all these different tools. There's also a lot of project management capabilities in Microsoft. Of course, they're different from Monday.com, strengths and weaknesses in both areas. But the Monday.com automation is for that platform and being able to automate what's in there. And this you would be able to do across the suite. But I do not see a connector for Monday.com. So either you would have to build it or maybe it's not possible.
Um, okay. There's another question, and I apologize if I'm trying to summarize this, and I apologize if I get this wrong. But from what I understand is it possible to use Power Automate to cross-reference with another stored form and then merge it into one Excel file? So you're taking different sources and putting into one file.
Yeah, you could absolutely do that because let's look here. Okay, well, let's say when this new form is connected again. This is a new flow, not the one I had before. When a new response is submitted, and now I can connect to Excel. So remember before where I could see all of those questions and say, where's the title of that form? What's the expense date? What's the expense amount? I can just grab all of those fields and ship it to Excel and then go and do something similar with another form and bring that into Excel too. You could push this to a database or to Dataverse if you wanted to do like put a Power BI dashboard on top of it. Um, Here's the Dataverse one. So once you have that form, again, I come in here and I'll pick the expense form. And I'm just going to grab a variable here. Okay. Oh, I think I made that as a true false variable. Oh, can I change this? Yes, I can. String being text, string of text. Okay, now update. Okay, so it's being a little slow, but remember before where I had all of those fields that I could grab and pull them in as variables into my workflow, right? By when I created the approval name and I had the title there, anything that's in there. So you could then plug that into Excel. I don't know where
So
my
you asked that question correctly, but if not, please you can raise your hand and I can unmute you, or you can clarify the question. We have another one around someone saw um, the Power Automate with Jot form. Do you know how that works?
Power Automate with pardon?
Jot form.
Jot form?
Yeah, I think we saw that during the templates when you were showing us the templates, and there was one around Jot form.
And the question is, how does that work?
Yeah.
When you use a connector, so you can, let's see, pops up here. There's a jot form like that. Sorry if I didn't spell that correctly. Jot. If you have an account with jot form, I'm sure where it's here, but then you would just log into that account with whatever the proper permissions are, and there should be usually, so let's just use this one as an example. I don't know what CloudBot is, but if I wanted to use that, then I have these different actions that it comes with. If I want to execute a bot or upload a file or download a file, that I can do with Power Automate. So when you get the connector, it's going to have these baked in things that you can do with it. So like Salesforce, for example, to be like create a contact, edit a contact, send a mail. Like there's an entire library of things that you can do with Salesforce that are canned. And then they have these same kind of configurations that you can come into, like we did with the approval, and fill in that action with what it is that you want to do and the data that you want. I hope that answers the question. I want to show one more thing here with Copilot. So let's say that I have this form and I have this approval, and now my organization is a little bit bigger. So instead of everything coming to me, I want it to go to the manager of whoever submitted this. And we can try having Copilot to modify that. The approval action assigned to the form submitters, submitters manager. Let's see what this comes back with. Someone's thinking about it. So if you know that you want to do something, you're not sure how to get there, that looks pretty good. It put this get manager action right where I need it to be, because I need to get the manager so that I can do this approval. So we have to configure this. So the users whose manager we want to get is the person who completed the form. So I'm not seeing that here under the form, but I am capturing that in the form. I can go and look at the form. So I had configured this to record the name. Over here, I had to say see more, and now I can see responder's email. That's who I want. And that's it. That's all I need. Close. Why is it? Oh. Canceled my connection. Let's try now. I think I'm logged into too many accounts here. All right, I'll get the manager. And now over here, I don't want this to go to Brit. I want it to go to that manager. So again, we'll pull that in as a dynamic value. And we'll get the manager. Here's the get manager. And we're going to grab the email of that person. And I could come on here and just type in mail too. It would have pulled that in. Okay, so we're going to assign that to the email of the manager that we got in the other action. And that's it. So I've used Copilot to get me started on something for an idea that I have that maybe I'm not sure how to get there. And it put the right logic in for me, and then I had to go and configure it. All right, so that's some quick ways of working with this. Are there more questions?
There is a question, but I'd love to see that if it's done with the approval to see how it went into lists. If we can do that real
Well,
quick.
so would I. I think something got corrupted over here. Not great.
Oh,
Normal. And I don't know where it went. It kind of vanished. So what I would like to do is show you where you can go for training and then come back and look at this one again and see maybe where it, because it just kind of vanished. I don't know where that happened. I will come back to that, but I want to show you if you're interested in learning more, where you can go. And this is true for pretty much all things Microsoft. Is there like a raise the hand feature here, Yanting, or no?
yes,
Can we
you
do
should
a
be.
raise the hand if you are familiar with Microsoft Learn or Learning Paths?
Or you can use the reaction.
All the reactions. I don't know if I
Yeah.
can do that, but
I see one raise hand, two raise hands.
okay. Okay. So for the rest of you, let's look at, or even those who are familiar, maybe it's good to have a refresher. You can go to learn.microsoft.com or just search for Microsoft Learn. Even in Google, it's probably going to be the first thing that comes up. And they have this great training called like learning paths. If you haven't seen some of the training materials that Microsoft has had to offer, they have really come a long way. Highly recommend this is the first place to go to learn. And they have some interactive examples that you can go and build your own flows and things. So we're going to say browse all paths, or you can say browse all trainings. And now you can pick the product or products that you're interested in learning about. So, we want to look at Power Automate. And here it's going to filter all of the trainings. Here's what we just looked at, build an approval flow, getting started. These times I find are always inflated. If it says 51 minutes, it usually takes me about half of that to go through it. I think there's like some videos and things. I mean, don't feel bad if it takes you longer, but it's rarely as long as it says. And so here's all the things for Power Platform. And then you can filter here at beginner. And some of this will just be like getting started, build your first automate flow, and then you can become more advanced and then get some training that would help you even pass the certification with some practice exams and everything. So if you go into something like build approval flows, you can mark this. You can add it to like your training book if it's something that you wanted to come back to and figure out what your learning objective is. And as you start this, it's going to give you some overview, but then it'll also see simulation, build an approval request. It's going to step you through using screenshots and some videos and things, how to actually set this up for yourself. And some of them are even interactive. So highly, highly recommend using this as a resource. Again, not just for Power Platform, but really for anything Microsoft that you want to learn more about. It's really good. Very helpful and up to date.
Right, that's a great resource. A question around accessing the automations that you've created. So after you create automations, how can you re-access them to use again? Are they saved on the desktop or in a folder, or do we have to go back into Power Automate and relaunch saved automations each time?
Okay, a few things there. The Power Automates run on a trigger. So once I have this set up and somebody puts in a flow, fills in a form, I don't need to open this up and run it. It's just going to run. It's going to run at 4 a.m. It's going to run on Sunday. It's going to run if 5 people enter a form at the same time. I do not need to monitor this. If I need to make a change to it for some reason, then I can come back to Power Automate and find that flow. I like this question because it brings up a really good point on ownership of these, which I did not mention. I had created this flow as Workplace Hub. I think it's signing me back in. I think that's part of why I had a problem is it's like mixing up all of my accounts and was, oh, now it's over here. I get to my flows and get to the flows that I created. Um, but there's also shared with me. So if somebody has shared a flow with me that they want me to collaborate on, I would see that here. If I come into a flow and I can share this with somebody else, so I could share this with Britt and make her an owner. I can't stress enough how important it is to make sure that if you have another, can it find me? That you want to have at least two owners on a flow unless something is just temporary. Because if that first person goes away, you're a little bit stuck at being able to manage this form going forward. Even better, have an account dedicated to working with Power Platform. So like a service account. Have a service account that people can log in and out of who have access to it and make that flow the owner of everything. And then you don't have to worry about signing things up. And this is just true across Microsoft, two owners for a team, two owners for a SharePoint site, two owners for a group, two owners for a flow, a minimum. I would make sure that you get that set up. The other thing is there is Power Automate on the desktop that has some different functionality. It has the same and different functionality. So there are two types of flows. One is a triggered flow. So the flow is, I want this to run every time something happens, every time I get an email, every time somebody sends me a Teams message, every time a form is entered. That's just going to run on a trigger. The other type is an instant flow, manual flow, sorry. And that's where you run it yourself. So if you have a process for your end reporting that you've written where it goes and gets some different data, and you only want that to run when you are certain that it's ready to go and everybody has given you their, yes, I'm done, I've submitted all my information, somebody could come into that library of flows. Where are my flows again? And you would open up the flow and then you could run it if it said run up at the top, if it was that type of flow. Now these are triggered flows, so I don't see that as an option, but if it was a manual flow, there would be a big play button up here and you would click that and it would start that flow. So you either have a manual flow or you have a triggered flow. Other questions? These are, I love the interaction. Thanks. There's a lot to this, and it sounds like some people are feeling inspired, which is fantastic.
Yeah, we did have a question around the recording. Yes, this will be shared with you so you can review it, slow it down, speed it up, however you'd like to try out your first
Can I
flow.
edit it so that I can get that demo working like it was earlier?
Yeah. And the learn dot Microsoft 365 is a good one too. So we'll be sure to add that into the follow-up email. Um, all right. Looks like we've answered all questions. I do want to mention our tech therapy service. So as you are playing around with Power Automate, and if you would like additional one-on-one support, we do have a network of volunteers who will be able to support you with that. So if you do come across a barrier or a challenge, just ping us at Aparo and we can get you connected with a volunteer to help support you one-on-one at no cost. So just keep that in mind as you're playing around with that. The other piece I want to talk about is the post-webinar survey that I just dropped in. So Britt, we are lucky to have her come back in May. The topic is to be determined. So we wanted to reach out to you all to see what other topics around Microsoft 365 you would be interested in. So as you complete that survey, there should be like an open-ended question at the end. Drop in your suggestions or recommendations there, and we can look at that and hopefully have another training focus around a topic that you're interested in.
Yep, I can talk for an hour about PowerPoint images. So, you know that.
Gonna put PowerPoint images. We can do another Power Automate. If there's something specific you wanted to go through, drop all ideas in that survey. All right, well, we are at 1 o'clock. Thank you, Britt, for an amazing demo. That was brilliant. Thank you so much. And then thank you all of you for attending this. Expect that follow-up email by tomorrow, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone.